All right, folks, welcome on back here for another fantastic edition of our Traders Talk Workshop this Monday. Get my date straight here, 7/7, July 7th. How about that? Lucky day. Great to see all of us back inside our live trading room here. You got Brian, Roberto, Sharon, you got Gary, Alicia, Bill, Gillis, Farzad. Got all of us, though, just joining us, though, here. I see April still with us from the last couple of weeks. Uday, of course. Claire, great to have you here with us. Ray, you got Piyush, Terry. Great to see you here, one of our longtime members and students. Sonia, I would say my neighbor. I'm back in Florida, Sonia. Sonia over in Long Island, New York. I was just visiting from some family. My lovely niece is up there. I'm back home in Largo at this point right now, though. Clearwater, Largo here in Florida. So great to see my Floridian neighbors. Just welcoming aboard one of our new students here, Wayne from Rockledge, Florida, just before. Who else did we have here? I thought I saw Margaret just a moment ago. Maybe Marcella, Charlene. And great to have all of us, otherwise, regardless of state, country, wherever you're from here, at least joining us, though, this afternoon. So with that said, actually a special shout out to our trial members here joining us for this week. Frank, I see Nabil here, Neil, you got Greg, who else joining us? And perhaps if not from today, maybe going into tomorrow, Wayne, one of our new students, as I just mentioned. So either as a trial member or a student of CTU, welcome on aboard here. If you're on social media as well, special shout out to all of us on Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, etc. You get this big ass image up here. Make sure to follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Right down below that is, but normally at CybertradingU on all of our social media streams, but specifically YouTube. That's our main hub. But with that said, I mean, this wolf trade has been an absolute animal this morning, folks. Before I get my tomatoes thrown at me here, at least, let me ask, who is in on this trade still at this point? Who is in this trade live on this wolf right now? Because it's still looking pretty good. It's up 111%. We've seen stocks up more than 111% in one day, so maybe it does keep pushing up higher. Whether you're in this trade still or whether you took the money and ran from earlier, let's at least begin by going over this wolf trade. Now, this was on our watch list going into the opening bell, right? This was on Fausto's morning watch list. We had a lot of stocks for a Monday, mind you, but MBIO, Run, SBET, that was mine at least that I took some money off on. Sun, Kerr, you got like a lot of these, right? Tesla included. So, if you don't focus on the more expensive stocks, then right away, just don't let Tesla be any noise to you. But, hey, let me ask Carlos, let me ask John, let me ask Tim, skipping some names because I want to just, ask our gold, platinum, and diamond C2 students of C2 here. I got Phil here, Kevin, Roger, Kathleen, Glenn. What is like the number one thing that we look for to determine if any of these stocks are tradable or not? What's like the most important criteria to determine if a stock is tradable for you, let's say? You specifically as Phil the trader, Carlos the trader, Latha joining us here, one of our members, and Latha may have had a question just before. I'll get to that in just a bit. Tim and Uday and Alicia right away. Special shout out to Alicia. Glad to see you're safe and sound, Alicia. Volume and spread, right? Volume and spread. So if you're focused on the volume, if you're focused on the spread, what's the spread on Wolf right now live, real time? Looking at my matrix here on the far right side here of my window, what's the spread live? What do we got? I should probably get rid of this caption down below here, right? If you're on YouTube, forgot to do that part. Almost got everything right there. All right, so what are we looking at here? This is a penny spread, and it's not even fluctuating. This is rock solid at a penny. You just see these orders are pretty large on both bid and ask. Now that's what it was in pre-market. Even though the orders were typically a little bit thinner in pre-market for most of these trades, this had a very good order book. A little flat in pre-market, mind you. It was a little flat, so it wasn't like screaming upward from pre-market. Maybe it was just holding support. It ran up at 8 o'clock, 8:15 in the morning here, but it came back down, right? So if you're asking me, much like I ask you as a student inside our classes, hey, what's the direction of this stock? Who's winning this battle right here and there? It's up percentage-wise. So technically, the buyers are winning to a degree. But it's not like this is making higher highs. I'm not saying the sellers are winning this, but I need to see more if I'm led to believe that this wolf trade is going to be a runner today. It's on our list, and I'm hopeful it can be a runner. But that doesn't just mean I buy, right? And our students, Uday and Alan, shout out to him, and a lot of our gold, platinum, and diamond C2 students, at this point, right? Because of what you've learned in class, phases 1, 2, and 3 of our stock trading course. So, where are our levels for Wolf? Well, let's ask those same students, Uday, Alan, Frank, and we'll go through like others like Jim and Debbie. And I got a couple Allens here. So shout out to Alan T as well. But no, otherwise, where are we expecting to find these iceberg orders out there on the order book? We're not even looking at the matrix here. We're not even looking at bookmap yet. For a cheap stock like this, what common set of price levels should we be focused on for icebergs? Quick shout out here to, I believe, Dave joining us, normally one of our students on the social media here on YouTube. Reginald, great to have you back with us here this Monday afternoon, maybe Monday morning, depending on where you're located. But otherwise, though, what do we got here, folks? 50-cent levels and whole numbers. I'm focused on $1.50. After that, I'm likely focused at $2. After that, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to be focused on $2.50 after that point. So that's kind of where it's running into real-time live. But I got 150, got $2 from there, 250 after that point. Now, these are assumed levels. These are price levels that I'm just putting on the chart to assume much, much more often than not. That's where we're expecting to find icebergs. It's kind of like the old saying, when you get lost in the woods, when you look up and you see the North Star, find your way home, right? 50-cent levels and dollar levels are our North Star for cheap trades like this, for inexpensive stocks like Wolf. And others too, inexpensive stocks like we also have on our list, the MBIO, maybe Run, Sun, we'll go through those. But yeah, let's go through Bookmap now and see where the iceberg orders really were on Wolf. So as far as where they really were, I'll focus on these orange lines that go across the page. The orange or red lines that are stretching longest across the page, those are the ones that I'm most interested in. So granted, I will tell you that we have big support at $1.25, specifically for this one stock. So, just for this one stock, we got a near 200,000 share buyer out there at $1.25, $1.24, whatever this is. Where do we have resistance? If we are to, look at this book map and evidently see where we have an orangish line stretch across the page, above where the stock is trading, where do we have like an orangish line going across the page there? What do we got? Russell, John, Nabil? $1.60. So this is where we really have the order. We assume at $1.50, and actually, just to be exact, looks like at 145. Look at like the CVP column here at 145. That's a big spike. So I'm sure there's some volume buildup there, and if it could break above that, there's room for a potential entry. All right. Well, I'm also saying that 160 is going to be a pretty strong level too. So I'm going to probably have a few different lines on this graph here. Don't mind me for a quick second. I'll kind of plot all of these out here for us in just a moment. Kind of showing you that these are our typical iceberg levels there at 150, then certainly at 160. Then this is actually from the CVP. So let's just see how that played in part as a technical level for this morning. Market opened up, ding, ding, ding. We'll actually go through the opening bell print in just a bit here. I don't think it's relevant too much because, quite frankly, what are we doing in the first 5 minutes, folks? Got Charlene here, April, John, Dave, Daniel joining us here. What are we doing in the first 3 to 5 minutes? Not just for any one weekday that ends in Y like we always do, but for a Monday. And not only for a Monday, folks, we are pretty much in the summer, right? It's a summer Monday. You want to set that bar low. You don't want to just jump into shit right away. It's pretty impulsive. So I know this moved up like right away, but that's just where I'm telling you, you want to hang back. You want to be patient here. So granted, yeah, it popped right away, blasted over 150, 150 as resistance here, we'll say. And then it ran, right? This ran from 150, moved up bar after bar after bar, up towards a high of 164, 163, 164, right? So, hey, you know where I'm going to at this point because you see it on the screen. The answer is on the chart. But much like we do here in Traders Talk every Monday, much like we do in class every month, when a stock breaks resistance and it runs after, what are we expecting that resistance to flip into? I don't make the rules. I just try and follow them, right? So, this was your first real entry on the trade. The first one. There's several entries on this stock as it only continued to move up. I mean, hey, the more times it knocks on this door here over time, you should look to find a breakout, not even to wait for the flippening of support. So that looks like a pretty good entry. The more it kind of pecks and knocks on that resistance level, especially in a smaller wave of time like you're seeing here. It's after the first 5 minutes, right? What time's reversal time, folks? Barbara, I see here. Farzad, I got your question just before. We'll get to that in a bit. Fred, Sam, Leda. What time's reversal time? 10:30. So even if you're on the conservative side of that, if you're thinking 10:15 to 10:30, when it's 9:39 in the morning and this is re-breaking a big resistance, this is for the taking. This is ripe for the taking. You want to jump in from here if you're not already in off the 150, but there's numerous levels that you could jump in on this trade from. You can't say that on every single stock that's moving in the market, because not every stock will sustain trend as well. But guess what happened pretty much right around 10:30? In fact, it was even a slight bit afterwards, but it reversed around there. So there was plenty of time to not just jump in this trade from here, but plenty of time to hold on. A lot of us held on, not even till 10:30, but just you held on for a respectable amount of time and run up here. Hey, to have this go from $1.60 up to two, that's a great trade to take home anyway, right? If you're in from 162 out at 195 here, whatever. Let me just ask you this. I'm asking you specifically as the trader. All of us in our room individually. If you're on social media, you as well. If you day trade, if you day trade these stocks, but for a cheap $1, $2 stock, how often are you up 30 to 35 cents a share on a $2 stock in a matter of like 50 minutes, 45 minutes? If the answer is, it's pretty often that I'm in that, decent amount, I make money pretty, consistently here on your call outs, then, hey, then we'll try and challenge ourselves and either try and hold on longer, or, hey, you don't need to hold on longer. You could just learn to scale up in size, right? If you're still trading 200 shares and you're holding on for a good amount of time, then you can scale up, right? That's one way to make more money too. But point being is that if you don't make 30 to 35 cents a share too frequent on a dirt cheap stock like this in a matter of 45 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever, then this is a huge profit for you. Don't feel bad about leaving money on the table, because it goes to show, guess what? If you're leaving money on the table, you're taking some money off the table to at least begin, right? So it's like half glass full, half glass empty, right? Let's focus on the half glass full part at least, and say, hey, we made a lot of money. Now it's testing too. If you take half out and then you keep half in, want to have a little responsible fun, be my guest. That's how you do it. And it blew right over two, blasted right above resistance here. Perfect breakout, moved up 47, 49 cents. If this pulls back to two, didn't drop exactly into $2 here, didn't test it, didn't make my famed under over for that, support type of entry. But what this did was this retained higher lows, right? It basically did it right from this support that it built off the chart. It's tiny little 1 minute chart, but looking at the reaction that we had here, well, guess what happened? It cut into it. Yeah, it didn't hit $2, but it went under and over this and made a new, bounce from there. So that's where I'm telling you, there's like numerous levels you could have jumped in on this trade from, even just before. Now let's just see what happened here, of course, on Bookmap, because we know it moved up. We know it popped. We know we had a resistance here at two that, possibly could flip into that support. Didn't happen exactly at that price, but let's see. Well, we had a little resistance at 250. That's where we would assume to have a level. Showed up a little bit after reversal time around 10:30, 10:40 in the morning. After that, pretty much at $3. It's not as big, but 105,000 share seller out there at 298, pretty much at three. So again, these are your 50-cent levels and whole numbers at this point that you want to just rely on. This is the issue on this trade, though, right? Because if you're familiar with this company, Wolf, then this isn't like a healthy company. This is not a company that a lot of people are like hyped about as, oh, the next big thing. Oh, it's going to end up being Palantir. What was the last one that flew? Oh, it's going to be the next Iron. Look at this thing. We've been on top of this for a while. We've been like, in a good way. We've been murdering the swing trade on this. We've been killing it on this one. But though, that's just where I'll tell you, when you look at the Wolf daily chart, yeah, one of these things is not like the other. You know what I mean? This has not been a good swing trade for a long time now. But if you recall, Genevieve, Barbara, Alicia, I got Neil joining us as a trial member. Welcome aboard, Neil. But our students, if you've been with us for a little while now, then I mean, even from the election, we'll say, if you've been with us from the election, pre-election, we know this stock because this was one of the quote unquote Harris stocks, if I'm not mistaken. Let me even try and go back if I can. Let's see how deep I could dig into the logs here of all my screenshots. Watch what I'm about to try and pull up here if I can. But going back into early November, late October, early November, we were prepping ourselves up for the election. We were talking about the possibility, what happens if Kamala Harris were to win? Okay, the energy stocks would run. Okay, we know there's Sunrun, which is RUN, the ticker. We know there's like ENPH, SEDG, blah, 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 the EV stocks, blah, 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 blah. Well, this company, Wolfspeed, was on the top of that list when we went over the whole election trades. And I didn't know the first thing about this company until we kind of looked into them, knew what they are, what they're about. The only saving grace about this company that I do like is that they are not some microscopic float stock. They're not some like pharma stock on a 1 million share float. This stock has 126.5 million shares in the float. So for a day trade, that is pretty healthy. Like, it has a good gas tank. So, if the stars really want to align on this, as long as it stays here and kind of holds around 250, maybe there's a chance later today it could re-break resistance and lead for another move for us here heading into the close. Let's see how far I could dig into my screenshots, if you don't mind. Give me a quick second here. But otherwise, I just want to show you evidently that we've been on top of this exact trade for a little while now, and it has not been a good swing trade stock. So that actually could parlay me perfectly right to a question that was sent in from one of our students. One of our students was kind of asking more about swing trades on a couple different trades that he's in on right now, or he's looking to jump in on, might I say. So the IREN, we were talking about that. Another one here too. All right, can't find that screenshot, pardon me, but obviously, as you know, we've been on top of this trade since the election, because you could tell going back into November 5th, November 7th, this thing got clobbered. So once we saw it tank, we kind of said, I guess we were right with that, with it being a Harris stock or Democratic-based company, whatever. But point being is that this is not a good swing trade yet. It's more of a gamble. Now, let's just jump towards, though, that question that came in. So give me a quick moment. Let me just try and see if I can go through here. Okay, perfect. This is from Farzad from earlier this morning, just kind of asking, not sure if you cover potential swing trades and Traders Talk. Absolutely do. So for anyone else here, just keep in mind, day trades, swing trades, stocks, options, crypto. We talk about it all here. I got a big ass mouth. I could talk forever. So we'll talk about anything that you want me to talk about. I just want to give you good insight. So Farzad had asked, I'm interested in your thoughts on IREN, IREN, and another company, BWXT. I'm considering mid to long-term positions in those two. Perfect. So let's just start off on the one I know more about, IREN, IREN. We have been on top of this, if not from the end of May, it was like the beginning of June. We've been on top of this, I think, since the beginning of June it was here. So I got some word from some people on social media, people that I find respectable. I follow them on a couple of trades I look at for long-term and swings and whatnot. When I was talking to you about Oscar and the potential, short squeeze that we had back here, it was basically from the same person that was talking about IREN. Now with that, it ended up making a pretty good move to start. This is not just a Bitcoin mining company, and we talked about this here in this very workshop maybe like a week or two ago. This is a nuclear play. And not only now is it just a nuclear play as well, it's also like an AI data center-esque play. I think they bought a ton of NVIDIA Blackwell GPUs, and whatever they're doing with the AI data center stuff, along with using nuclear energy, they might even be using that to harness Bitcoin mining. There's probably some people here that know a lot more about the ins and outs of it than I do. But point being is that these mining companies are not stocks that I'm a fan of. I do not like these mining companies whatsoever. They'll eventually have their day in the sun. Run looks like, not terrible at this point, but hasn't made higher highs in forever. I can go through them all, right? But otherwise, though, the IREN is moving a hell of a lot better compared to everything else. Leads you to ask why. This was back from the beginning of June. So we started to look into it. It was the nuclear, it was the AI data center more recently. Now that's where we focus on the chart. So looking at like the long-term graph for IREN, if you're focused on a mid to long-term play, granted, it's not like you're just like blindfolding yourself and pressing the buy button and like not caring at all. Of course, you care about your entry if you're thinking mid to long term, but you have a larger game in mind. Like when I'm buying spot Bitcoin over the last year and a half, I knew mentally, as part of the terms and conditions of a mid to long term play, you got to deal with some larger swings. So you're not just jumping in with larger size to begin. You'll scale in over time, right? So if this is a mid to long term play, then it's just a matter of identifying where your key levels are. Let's just even see if we can go back a little bit further here. This is all I got here. Okay. That's a pretty good, pretty healthy chart then if this is all I got. So it looks like we had some good support around 1280-ish, like loosely speaking, just put a sloppy line here, but it crashed into it, kind of built better over time here, but it eventually broke lower. Support should become resistance, and it really didn't at first. Probably a couple of different prices put together here that can create this area. If it were to pull back, this would be a great area to look for support. That's for sure. I'm very bullish about this company specifically, Farzad. Uh, Now, I just say that in terms of if. I don't know if it's going to pull back all the way down here or not. It might look to try and hold over this past resistance, flipping this over time, loosely speaking, into a support. That might take this week, next week, etc. But this is a really healthy graph otherwise, where it's beginning to try and like make a stronger case for a higher high. I guess you could say this truly is a higher high based from the past year. Since the beginning of 2024 to now, this is a higher high. But if you're looking even back from the end of 21, beginning of 22, there's still a little roadblock left. That's not bad. I just want to point that out. This is like a pretty damn healthy chart. So I feel really good about IREN. Now, the BWXT. I told Farzad point blank, I'm like, I don't know this company too much, so I gotta like look into them a little bit here. Farzad said he was in BWXT mid last year, but got out at the end. They used to be in the defense business, but over the years, they diversified into commercial and nuclear medicine. Okay, well, we're nuclear. Okay, then there you go. The reason for looking at it again is the trend and the commercial nuclear focus. Well, this looks like a really strong chart. My first time looking at this graph. So, this obviously is like pretty much at all-time highs, broke all-time highs just maybe a week or two back, just kind of holding here well. Nothing more that you could really say on that. This stock doesn't trade a lot of volume though every day like the IREN. So I do want to point out you probably cannot be using Bookmap here on this trade. It only trades 300,000 shares total per day. So the order size here has got to be really tiny. You can't really rely on anything here. Like this here, this is like a beet red line. You might be conditioned as a student to like say, oh, it's dark red, it's a big level. That's how I teach you to interpret it, right? You got to keep it simple at first. Look at the size of the order. It's 800 shares. That's nothing, right? How could we trust 800 shares? So I just want to point out that you can't really use Bookmap for this stock, unfortunately, Farzad. Definitely focus on the charting, though, because where you see this rounded top here over time, looks like it already tried to build it out as a support. I just put like a few lines here to represent that general top. Hasn't pulled all the way back there yet. It actually has some good wicks on the daily chart here, like really good defense from trying to drop into that area. Just a bunch of these wicks on the daily chart, pretty strong. I would just assume, hey, you could still assume that a dollar or at $150, 150 should be a pretty strong level for you to watch psychologically still. Now, this is where if you're swing trading, you could like mess around. You could probably mess around and look at a couple indicators here. I got something that we can kind of look at pretty briefly. If you want to look at like a fib extension, mess around a little bit here. See, I don't see Josh do this with day trades, right? Because I don't have the time to do this indicator stuff with day trades. This is where I'll tell you, looking at the fib extension lines here that it made, looks like it's trying to hold this one right now as potential support. And if it gets the job done, then this should look to rock much higher up. Your 100% fib extension levels right around 180, 178 roughly. So if it holds over this, there could be a much better play at hand here, Farzad, on this trade. And this looks healthier than the iron, at least in terms of an overall chart, layout. All right. Real quick, let's just see anything that I missed here from the chat. Otherwise, I don't think so. Let me just see if there's any other questions that we have the chance to go through here. All right. So from private chat, I saw a couple come in early from our trading room. So I want to get to those here to begin. We talked about the Wolf, WOLF, right? And that kind of segued me a little bit towards our discussion with a swing trade, answering Farzad's question. But we're going to jump right back to Wolf. We're going to jump right back to the Wolf trade here. Alicia, there we go. Welcome back, Alicia. And safe travels back here, back home, I should say. She was traveling from Israel and Jordan. And God bless that she is back in one piece. She is safe, because she actually wrote to me just before that. Pretty much right when she was leaving from her trip, she was doing like basically like more of a religious-based trip, right, Alicia? Coming back from Israel and Jordan, but pretty much like she left right as like the Houthis were like launching the missiles at like the airport. Crazy. So Alicia, love having you back. Thank God you were back with us. So Alicia has a great question for us here in Traders Talk. She says, for Traders Talk, some people stayed in that Wolf trade on that drop from $1.92 down to $1.74. Let's just show that. So like from here, right? $1.92 down to here. She says that she sees that as a lot of money, like a lot of money that you could lose on a position, or if you were in the trade from earlier and it pulls back, it's like a lot of potential unrealized profit that you're losing out on at that point. Possibly it's something that would make her look to close the trade out, right? Only to then have it move up much higher, right? That's kind of where Alicia's coming from. She's just curious what charting would cause someone to stay in with the stack of resistance that was at and slightly below 2. She got out at $1.90. She was in from 157. That's a hell of a profit there right away, Alicia. Really nice job. Could the VWAP at 10:13 in the morning, priced at $1.75 technically, could that have served as resistance, or could it have been a reentry? There's only one way to find out, right? And this is a great question for this exact workshop, right? We're going to go over other trades in just a moment here too. We'll talk about Tesla, because obviously, going into the weekend, Elon can't shut his mouth. So we'll talk a little bit about the Tesla drop, how to react to that. I didn't focus on Tesla much this morning. I didn't really care too much about the trade. I mean, I did, but I didn't jump in. I knew I wasn't going to jump in today. I don't even have the book map up, so I'm going to load it up now while we're at it. But let's just go over to Wolf, because as far as that specific pullback goes, we didn't really talk too much about that here. So let's dig into the pullback here now. So let's say if you're in from that 157, like Alicia said, she's in from $1.57. It was moving up great. And, this shake basically caused her to get out at $1.90. Oh, you got out pretty much like right before it shook, Alicia. That was a nice one, at least from you. So you didn't really have to endure the shake too much, was it? Or maybe you endured it, then got out as it came back up, perhaps. Maybe that could have been it. But either way you cut it, this is just where I'll say, okay, this is 10 o'clock in the morning. We probably have a little bit more time. I'm hoping we have a little bit more time for reversal. We have at least 15, 30 more minutes. Now that's easy to say. But at 10 o'clock in the morning, that's where my mind initially takes me. So it's not like I have my feet kicked up, but I am thinking at 10 in the morning here, roughly, unless if there's something new that changes to the order book, something new that changes to the structure of the order book here, bids and asks alike, maybe something new on the sell side joins, maybe a ton of these bids just pull, whatever it is, unless if something like that happens, I am thinking that there's a chance for this to try and hit 2. I am thinking all right, well, there's a chance this could maybe test two, maybe pop and drop two, then finish up. Maybe it runs over two. So at 10 in the morning, again, I don't have my feet kicked up on my desk, but it's my first thought. I'm thinking, okay, there's a chance that we're going to get this level test here at two. Now, when this begins to pull back, that's where you could say you have support at 180 on the bid, about 120,000 or so shares. Um, that's your largest bid here, your largest bid. And granted, you got the VWAP, but that's pretty far down. So if you're in from Alicia's 157 entry, you certainly don't want this to shake all the way down to 157, 160, right? So she's not going to wait that long. This is where, though, when you see on Bookmap, look on Bookmap. You have this big spike of volume on the far right side column, the chart volume profile, CVP. Let me ask so we're on the same page. Jim, Nabil, Chuck, Alicia, Genevieve. Type the letter Y if you see my cursor right here on this volume spike on the far right side. I want all of us to write the letter Y in the chat. If not, then possibly sleeping behind the wheel. All right, so right where my cursor is, it's flashing on that volume candle at 169. That to me is a massive spike, but not only the spike, let's actually dig into like the candle itself. Let me even do this here for a moment. Watch this. Make it easy for all of us tuning in. Focus on that. Is there more green or is there more red in this area that I, circled around, made a rectangle around? Is there more green or is there more red? If you answered green, you know where I'm going next on this one, don't you? If you've been tuning into Traders Talk for about a month now, you know that this is the route that I go through every single time when we review a stock. What are we nicknaming the green as on the time and sales, folks? Rick right away, first to the punch on that, but Debbie, Sam, Fred, Gillis, Scott, Farzad, Alicia Lee, got Jim, you got Phil, got all of us just otherwise saying B for buyers, right? Buying, that is buying pressure. Those are buyers looking to squeeze the stock up a little bit, right? All right, so that was right off that 169 level. And hey, there wasn't like some big sell order out there. It wasn't some dark red line acting as resistance to begin here. But simply put, when you're seeing the contrast, the amount of volume traded here at this price compared to everything above it, it's like a massive difference. So when it breaks above this big volume level, resistance level, and then it runs from it after, perhaps that resistance could try and flip into support, right? So what was the price it shook down to? 169 was our level. Shook down as low. How low can you go? Down to 173, 174. So it seems as if that level still held as support. And you don't need it to drop that low. You don't need it to kiss this to be support. So it held pretty damn well, just hovering above it. Good enough for us, right? Goes to show how strong that stock is. Spitball a more intermediate based question. So let's hypothetically say, no, not even hypothetical. How about this? Let me just get this right, get my words right here for this one. For all of our gold, platinum, and diamond students, I want you specifically to answer this because you have all of our classes, you have the full curriculum. So let's say if this, or not even, I'm sorry, I'm messing up my words. When this ended up holding over this area and bounced, let's just ask this question. How many big red prints came in on time and sales at this price, $1.69? How many big red prints came in on the time and sales at the price 169, right where my circle is? Answer that for me if you can. How many big red prints came in on the time and sales window when it dropped down to this area and then eventually bounced? Jim says 1. Kathleen says 1. Rob says not many. Sam says none. So the answer is a big fat Long Island bagel. Zero. None. And here's why. Simply put, if the low here is 174, 173, no, it never even got touched, Sam. Right here, where my cursor is, this is about 4 or 5 pennies even short. So if this stock doesn't touch this price, then effectively there is zero red prints at that price, which means there's effectively zero selling pressure at that price, right? Absolutely none. So this is the best case scenario here. This is absolutely the best case scenario. Granted, if it even did touch this price and kiss it and then bounce, then fine. That's great too, because that's like literally showing resistance flip to support. But the sheer fact that this didn't even touch it, it fell about 4 or 5 pennies short of it, there is no selling pressure there, right? Absolutely none, zero. So from that point, it moved back up. And if you're wondering why this ran so well from two, well, it's just to say, if this could just stay over two, then this is validated because there's certainly no selling pressure here. And because there is none, the buyer certainly won the battle in due time because it blasted way over two, moved up about 50 plus cents higher. And now at this point on this trade, obviously, as we just said, it's still kind of holding here. There's a chance of this to try and re-break over 250 later on this afternoon. But to go back to Alicia's question, listen, 20 cents is a big drop. This is 15 to 20 cents worth of drop here. 15 we'll go with. That's big for a cheap stock. That's like a decent amount of money to let go of or that get wiped out on. Let's say if you were in from your 157. Thankfully, you got out at a good price. But what if you held on and it shook down? You got to know where your levels are, right? That's the key. Finished up a call with one of our new gold students earlier this morning, and I think he's going to do pretty good with us because, just from initial dialogue and conversation, every person here is different, right? I know my audience, right? I'm speaking to a group of adult professionals, mind you, but we're all different people. Some people have more experience here with the market than others. Some people have larger account sizes than others. But it's not even about like the mechanicals. It's about the personality type. Some people here are more impulsive than others. It's just straight up, right? Just facts. Some people are a lot more passive and conservative and hesitant. It's just facts. It's statistics. Most of us are in the middle, but it's just to say that we're all different people at the end of the day, right? Now, the way that you succeed is simply by following the same process over and over and over and over and over and over. As long as you're following exactly what we're teaching in class. And what I mean by that is when this is moving up, 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 you want to know where your levels are. That's the number one thing here at this point, right? It's the number one thing. Where's our next level here as resistance? Where could be our support? So 180, yeah, 180, there's like 129,000 shares here on the bid at that price. Right there. 141 now it shows. So that could be a level. That could be. Now let's really put this under a microscope. Let's actually really dig into the volume spike here at 170. It was 170 that spike was at. Let's break out the measuring tape here. There was about nearly 400,000 shares that got traded and filled, at least at this one price. Now that's combined buying and selling for 390,691, right? Quick question, folks. What is the larger size? What is the larger size? 390,000 or 129,000? For all of us here in the chat board here in the trading room, answer that for me if you can. Not meant to be a tough riddle like Leda makes at the end of our weeks that I can never get correct. I don't mean to be the Riddler here, but I'm here to just ask a quick question. What is the larger size? 390,000? This? Or is it on the COB column here, the 129,000 at 180, right? Like we know the answer, right? I know you know the answer because it's just very straightforward. So it's just to say that, hey, if this is the larger level at 170, that's the one I'm going to trust more. That's the one I'm going to put more weight into myself. And from there, it ended up holding, like, obviously as well as it did. Didn't even come down to it. So no selling pressure, then bounce. So nice move. Now, at least as far as this afternoon goes, let's just stay on this for a quick second. Then we'll jump over to Tesla. We'll do Tesla for a bit. I'll check the inbox out, see if there's anything I missed, from any students here otherwise. But listen, as long as this can hold over 250, which is where I'm assuming to have our next big level, it shows even more so around 240-ish here. Let's use even this one. But I'm going with 250. If this could at least hold better throughout the afternoon above the 250, then I see reason to try and shoot for three. Why not? Right? The two most powerful words with trading in general, trading, investing, if you're a market participant, if you're risking your own money, the two most important words are if and then. If then. That's it. So if this stays over 250 throughout this afternoon, like, it needs to get back above it first. So as long as it gets back above it, stays above it, plays nice, I am led to believe we can get one more push up to three. I think this is also a gap fill. Yeah, this is a nice gap fill here too. So, you got a nice working gap for us here at this point. I know that SBET, another stock from our morning here today, there was an even larger gap. Obviously, that one is a little bit more unrealistic. But once this popped above like 193-ish, 190-ish here, there was a pretty big gap for this to attempt to fill. And it's already covered a good amount of it. It doesn't need to fill at all. But point being is that if this wants to keep moving up, then I'm assuming that like $3, but not only like three, you'd probably say like 311, where this closed at on this one candle. I know that this company had some days where they came off news about their Chapter 11, their bankruptcy. I think this is what started it, though, in late May. I think this drop was the initial news that came out about them filing Chapter 11 or potentially. But with that said, though, yeah, I mean, hey, we'll see what happens this afternoon. This is making lower highs, so as far as the potential for an afternoon move, you'd rather not have lower highs because more often than not, it's going to equate to a lower low. All right. Listen, this was just one stock to begin. Let's just actually go over the MBIO trade next. Then we'll do Tesla. So Wolf wasn't the only cheap thing that ran today. So you might sit here and like, oh, I missed out on Wolf. Well, yeah, you could have gotten in on MBIO too, though, right? This was a little bit more volatile, though. This had a little bit more kick to it, a little bit more volatility to it. Had a spread at times, about 2-3 cents, but it had great volume trading in pre-market. Phenomenal trends, obviously. So, I don't even need to ask you on this one. Trend on this is up. When a stock is moving up, buyers are winning the battle. So let's see on this trade, where were the buyers winning the battle? Where were they? Now, the difference between MBIO and Wolf is the float. And we'll keep it at that for right now, and we'll come back to that at the end of this review. But this thing looks tough to read. This thing doesn't look, too easy on the eyes. I would say pretty big level here at first off 190. Broke above that and ran. So like that could be support on a drop. Otherwise, though, damn, this thing's pretty hard. This thing's not so easy to read. $3 as a potential level here. It shows for about like 15-20 minutes, but then the order gets pulled. Now, thankfully, that's exactly at $3. So much like I do anyway with these trades, when you get lost in the woods, you look up, you see the North Star, find your way home. I'm assuming 3 is a big level here, regardless of this orange line disappearing. I'm assuming that anyway. So at least I'll focus on 3. Now, as far as the CVP column goes, there's not much here I'm like really keen to use. Like on the Wolf, we had that one spike that we had at, what was it? 170, 165, 169. This sticks out. This is sharp. This sticks out pointy. Looking at the MBIO pre-market, at least heading into the opening bell, not much that I was a big fan of there. More of like a round lump. So like maybe generally that area could be support on a dip. But yeah, this thing pops over 3, goes up from there. All right, so maybe $3 could be support. It broke above it even before the market had opened up. So there's like next to no volume that traded there at $3. But Since it ran so effortlessly off the price, made over $1 gain off that level even, the thought still stands as far as seeing potential support build. Same thing though, unfortunately, this just kept moving up over time. So that didn't even happen, at least by the time the market opened. In hindsight, this didn't pull back much. So that's kind of irrelevant now looking back on it. Looking at this trade here now, at least before the open, $4, whole number level. So at least that still is pretty clean to see. $3, maybe even 350, but otherwise this shows easier. For $4, about 25,000 shares. Now, what happened on this trade, market opens up. We wait the first 5 minutes regardless. Listen, when you become a consistently profitable trader, there are certain rules that you will look to try and tweak and like bend a little bit with reason. I don't care who you are. I do this myself pretty much every singular morning. This is the rule that I'm the biggest stickler to. I always wait the first like 4 to 5 minutes. If I take a trade within the first 5 minutes, it's at like 9:34 and X seconds. So I'm waiting throughout all this. Absolutely any day of the week, especially for a Monday, especially for a summer Monday, mind you. So this might look, difficult for you to say, oh, they're very choppy around $4. Yeah, I'm sitting back here. I'm not jumping in right away. Now, what happens that makes this to be a great move initially is that it pops and it runs. So it finally lifts off from $4 as a working level. You got a couple little moves here to begin. It's like little 10-cent move up, little 25-cent move up, which isn't like terrible. But the more the stock could run off from the level, at least I'd have more confidence with seeing that act as support. That's where I told you, I'm like, listen, this didn't happen per se, but considering how well it ran from 3, if it did pull back there at the open, that would have been interesting to see that get tested. For as much as this finally broke over 4 and ran 65, 70-cent move roughly, resistance then flipped to support here, right? That's easy to say in hindsight, but that's exactly what we preach. Not even here in this workshop, but we take like a ton more time to cover that in our classes. Now, the same rules hopefully will apply at these other levels. Like for instance, 450, $4.50. The more times that this keeps getting nipped at, poked at, tested in a shorter time, you should get that break out. And then it looks like it did test it as support here. It kind of came into it, kind of moved off of 450. Not that great of a pop, granted, about 30 cents, decent enough. But that's just where at least, all right, it came down to it. First test of this as potential support, held, moved up higher. Now, this is where it got funky. It broke right over resistance here at 5. I would be more hesitant myself on this move. As I'm watching this go up, 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 I am waiting for a false breakout because, hey, the more times this does press this level, eventually you could and should get the run. So this might be easy to say in hindsight that it just flew. I'm probably waiting it out here, to be honest with you, just seeing like 1 or 2 more shakes, then like the next break above it. But again, that's me being a stickler to my main rule set. So there are trades that will fall into my lap and I pull the trigger perfect. It's like awesome. Then there are certain trades that are so strong that you're expecting a little weakness out of it and it just keeps trucking along. So, hey, that comes with the terms and conditions of strategy, right? There is stocks that will make a more unexpected move at times compared to other stocks. Now, eventually, this tried to like build support in due time. It just got messy though afterwards. Like it tried to broke even higher after a point. The danger with trading MBIO, you see it like tanking after a certain point in time here. Don't get me wrong, same thing could happen to Wolf. It could easily happen to Wolf. Don't get me wrong. But the reason that happened much easier to MBIO is the float. One of these things is not like the other, right? And I actually say that with Wolf because a lot of these stocks have much lower float. MBIO, just over 1 million shares in the float. This thing's trading 250 million shares today. It's like trying to breathe through a straw after like running a mile or two. You're going to get exhausted. You're going to just pass out after a point. That is what happens to all of these small cap, like pharma stocks, therapeutic stocks, whatever you want to call them. There is a giant risk. So even going back to like, runners that we had from just even last week, I know that we did pretty good on a couple different trades. Let's look at like CRML for a moment here. This is some no-name company that popped last week for us, just heading into Wednesday it was. Well, it's back down a little bit here today. Looking at a trade like INVZ, back down. All of these stocks, if you don't know who they are, if they don't have a big float, if they don't trade good volume on the regular, then you can't trust them as far as you could throw them. So that's where it's definitely better to be more pessimistic heading into the mid to late morning. And guess what? This ended up reversing pretty much right at 10:30 Eastern, right? Granted, if trading was so easy that for every singular day of the week at 10:30 in the morning, if like the market makers out there at like, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Wells, if they're like, oh, it's 10:30, it's that Fausto Pugliese rule. If trading was so easy, it was like that all the time, then we wouldn't have a need to, do this, you and me both, for a Monday, on a summer Monday, right? So that's where I tell you at least, hey, when this is 9:45 in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, there is still potential based on time. So at least that's where if this starts making lower lows, then this thing's cooked. If this were to have broken lower here, broke structure, game over. It's a wrap. That's pretty much what happened at this point, but it was like kind of like walking on thin ice for a long time. This is basically a big giant head and shoulders, and it's making lower highs. So eventually the neckline broke, this thing tanked. That's a wrap, right? So that's the MBIO. Real quick, just we're going to finish up with Tesla here. If you have any questions just for us in chat right now, let me know. You got Reginald here, you got Dave, you got Badresh here. Cleared 1,000 on bugs this morning. BUGS. Badresh, is that a different ticker there, my friend? I apologize. Cleared $1,000 this morning. Sounds like you had a great morning to start. Let me know what ticker that was, at least on that one. Tesla. Let's just jump to Tesla as we finish up. So, hey, if you're a student inside our live trading room, you know me, you know my thoughts, my politics, etc. And I mean that because especially a longtime student, Graham, Bill, Barbara, Leda, Glenn, you got a bunch of us here just joining us. For a long time, I stayed out of politics. I hate politics. No one knows what they're talking about, myself included. Like you, me, literally no one here, no one on TV. No one knows what they're talking about, right? That's why I always disliked it. Now, over time, you got to become more involved. You start, seeing things become enacted, things happening around the world. You got it, right? This is where I'll tell you, I am down the middle as it gets. And this is where I'll tell you, I like Elon. I don't mind him. Before he started politics, as he was working with Trump, I don't mind him. Some people hate him. He's the most polarizing guy in the world. I get it. I'm not here to have that conversation as much, but I'm just telling you where I'm coming from, at least, because what I'm about to say, well, you might like paint me as some anti-Elon guy. But guys, this guy should have shut his pie hole a long time ago. What is he doing? What was it? Back from like the end of May. I was talking to a couple of people on Twitter about this last night. Some people talking about the Tesla overnight move. They were down 6 to 7% last night into this morning. Still down 7.5% now, obviously. But that's just where like everyone was talking about it. Elon looking to start the America Party, third, party for presidential candidates, etc. But just to say though, back at the end of May, he himself came out and said, I'm going to focus 24/7 on SpaceX, on XAI, on Tesla, on this and that. I'm done with politics. I'm going to focus on my companies 24/7, he said. Then about 48 hours later, almost faster than you could blink, being sarcastic, but just to say, about 48 to 72 hours later, that's when he started attacking Trump, started going off on him. So whatever your opinions are about like politics, left or right, I'm down the middle. I am actually not necessarily like giant Elon guy, but I'm down the middle on Elon. I don't mind him. this guy, just shut your mouth, dude. Just shut it. Because if you're an investor who is confident in the product, in the Tesla EV and other products that are affiliated with Tesla, right? You got the solar, you got all sorts of other things I'm not thinking about. Obviously, if you're thinking down the line with the future, you're thinking about like the Optimus robot, right? The AI, that's cool. I love the product. As an investor, you got to be heated. And there should already be lawsuits being like prepared against Elon because not only from that one drop, I mean, when that happened, Tesla stock tanked about what, like 10%, 20% over that time, maybe even more. Thank God it bounced back up after. And yeah, he did say, like, oh, I'm done talking about Trump, whatever. Like, him and I made up, and Trump kind of said similar. They're a little peace for a little bit. And then here he goes again, starting to talk again. So if you're an investor, you got to be livid, right? And that's where I'll tell you, if you are livid and there's more people selling off going into this morning, guess what? I'm not in the business of buying. So even as a day trader, someone who truly appreciates this volatility this morning, I mean, honestly, this is like, I'm foaming at the mouth here trying to figure something out, but not only based off the news and the thought behind the news, just the whole thought of like investors probably are very pissed at Elon at what's happening. This trend is very much down right before the market's opening, right? Like from 8:30 into the opening bell, 9 o'clock into the opening bell. This thing is dropping. Just so we're on the same page, folks. Hey, if you're inside our live trading room, what or who's winning the battle when this stock is dropping? When Tesla's tanking here going into the market open, who's winning that battle? Sellers. So why am I so jumpy to buy this stock right away? I'm not. One more time for me, folks. It's the same like process, the same line of thinking, whether it's Tesla or Wolf or MBIO. If this stock is dropping and the market's opening, it's breaking lower after a point, what time's reversal time? What time's reversal time, folks? Chuck, answer that for me if you can, and Margaret Gillis, all of us, right? 10:30. So, hey, maybe around 10:15 in the morning, maybe around 10:30 in the morning, maybe there's a chance. So it started to move back up a little bit around 10 o'clock. This could be a shot here to try and see support build at like that 290 level, like 291, good consolidation from here. If you took this entry as a bounce, that's at least within reason. That's within strategy. It's a little after 10:30, mind you, but you're looking for potential support. I get it. But last thing you want to do is be a blind investor and just saying, oh, it's, Elon's going to have it go back up. I believe in Elon, or not even the Elon thing, but the product. You might love the product. I like the product. It's just to say, though, that if this stock is making lower highs and it keeps pecking this as support, guess what's going lower later today at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time or 3 o'clock Eastern time? Join us later for the afternoon meeting, of course. So you definitely need to see this start making higher highs locally and then obviously over time. But the longer that takes, I wouldn't want to stay in this position. I don't mind if you're like a Tesla investor, you're looking to take a short to midterm position on it, then watch it. You need to take your time, go back on the daily and weekly chart, figure out where the next set of historical levels are. I even said in the audio this morning with Fausto, I'm looking at this 269, 270. This looks pretty clean. So if Elon keeps opening up his mouth and this keeps dropping, it would be interesting to see like 270 as potential support. Now, if there's like good news with Tesla, if like tomorrow you see like higher lows build and you want to take a stab at it, then be my guest. Go ahead, as long as it's off a clean level, 290, 291 maybe, and there is a nice gap for this to try and fill. So I'm sure eventually this gap will get filled, if not much higher. But hey, you got to go with the momentum. You got to go with the emotional sentiment within the market. So even if you're the biggest pro Elon, pro Tesla guy or gal in the world, you just got to use common sense, right? Investors got to be freaking heated at Elon, especially since this has been going on for last month and a half or so. All right, folks. All right. So, hey, with that said, we are going to finish up at least when a little bit over. So, hey, I know that if you have any questions for trial members here, keep in mind, shoot me a quick email, josh@c2trading.com. I'll even post that as an alert. If you're joining us on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, etc. Let me just pop this up here one more time. Probably showing right down below on the YouTubes, but be sure to hit the follow or subscribe button right down below. At least this is a big ass image here, but otherwise at cybertradingu is our handle. So if you're new to our stream, new to our platform, right there's our tag, our handle, cybertradingu. We stream live each and every morning, every afternoon. We have live podcasts each and every week. We have an open house webinar coming up on Thursday, I believe, with Fausto, and plenty more. But otherwise, our next broadcast, as I just said, will be this afternoon at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. So that'll be simulcast. That'll be inside our live room and as well as on YouTube as well. So for Gillis, Fred, Phil, Margaret, Farzad, Bell, and all of us otherwise, hey, I'll talk to you all soon coming up in just a little bit. All right? Take care.
Become a Cyber Group member today. Just click the link below and receive all these amazing products and a world